entertaining talking sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, we're going to preview the big Week 7 Thursday night matchup between the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. And yes, it is a big game. Even though the New York Giants are 1-5, the Eagles are 1-1. The NFC East is that bad that either one of these teams could either be tied or in first place with a win, depending on what happens on Sunday with the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington football team. As crazy as it sounds, the New York Giants are still well within the race in the NFC East. And anytime the New York Giants take on the Philadelphia Eagles, I get pumped up. There's no doubt about it, and they've definitely had our number in recent history. But you know what? It's a new regime, and I'll be talking about this game tonight live with you guys. I'll have some subscribers on the channel, and I'm pumped up, man. I definitely think this is a game that we have an opportunity to win. Now, like I said, I've said that before. And if you go back and look at history, the Eagles historically have had our number, and in recent history, it's been much worse. 10 out of the last 11 games have gone to the Philadelphia Eagles. I believe they won the last 6, and we can't find a way to beat this football team. We have not beaten them since I've been on YouTube, and hopefully Daniel Jones and Joe Judge in his first matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles could find a way to out-game plan Doug Pederson and that bunch. Now, the Eagles coming into the year were thought to be a NFC East contender and potentially a team that was looking to do some damage in the playoffs. They, of course, won the division last year with a 9-7 record, and I always refer to them as a tough, scrappy team. And last week, well, they were tough. They were scrappy. They almost had a monumental comeback against the Baltimore Ravens, near the end of that game in which they lost 30-28. But the fact of the matter is this. The Eagles right now are completely banged up. And the New York Giants, historically, even though we always lose, we always play them tough. But we always find a way to lose the football game. You go back to the game with Pat Shurmur. I think we led by 2 scores going into halftime, and we completely stopped running the football. I think we only had 5 carries in the second half. We've got to come out with a game plan. We've got to stick to it, and we have to play fundamental football. When you look at the Eagles, like I said, they're completely banged up. They're missing at least 3 out of their 5 opening day starting offensive linemen, and Lane Johnson is questionable. He may or may not play, but if he does play, they're still missing 60% of their opening day offensive line, and I think that has a lot to do with the struggles of Carson Wentz. In addition to that, their best playmaker, Miles Sanders, will be out for this football game, along with Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, 2 players historically who give us tons of fits in the passing game. We all know that the New York Giants struggle against tight ends, and when you have tight ends as talented as those 2, it only magnifies it. Well, they're going to be out for this game, along with Miles Sanders, like I said, their biggest playmaker, and they've actually run the ball fairly effectively. The Eagles have run the ball at a 5.2 yards per clip, even though they rank 19th in yards. They're 4th in yards per carry, and Miles Sanders has a ton to do with that. Now, of course, Boston Scott, who will be starting, I believe, for the Philadelphia Eagles, did do damage against the New York Giants last year, but they were 2 completely different teams. James Betcher is no longer the defensive coordinator. We all know that Patrick Graham has done a much better job there. The Giants' defense is leaps and bounds better than they were last year. They're 12th in yards against. They're 16th in points against. Last year, they ranked damn near dead last in both of those categories, and the Eagles' offensive line isn't what it was. So I expect the New York Giants to get a decent push up front, and I don't expect Boston Scott to be able to run us over. Carson Wentz, even though he's played better, I think last week was his best game that he's had all year. It was the only game in which he had more touchdowns than turnovers. He had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Has been horrid this year. He's had 17 turnover-worthy plays, according to PFF, which is far and away the worst. The next closest is 11. I think he's thrown 9 interceptions. He's been horrific this year, and the Eagles' offense is just horrid. And the New York Giants have to take advantage of that, and I think they could. This offense doesn't scare me. People talk about Fulgham. I mean, Travis Fulgham is a 6th-round pick out of Old Dominion. Yeah, he's had 3 pretty nice games here for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he's definitely going to be the guy that we have to worry about with all these other players out. But James Bradbury has locked down better wide receivers than Travis Fulgham. I'm sorry, he took on Amari Cooper. He's played much better receivers than Travis Fulgham. I'm not too worried there. Stick Bradbury on him, take him out of the game, and make somebody else beat you. Now, Deshaun Jackson will be back in this game, but I expect him to be playing in a limited capacity from everything that I've read. And, of course, historically, Deshaun Jackson definitely kills the New York Giants. He's definitely a guy that can make a big play or 2 that could decide a football game, so you got to keep your eye out for that. But I expect the New York Giants to actually hold up pretty nicely on defense in this game. I don't think the Eagles are going to go out there and post 30 points on us, not unless we give it to them. If Daniel Jones turns over the football, all bets are off. And we know that Daniel Jones has certainly struggled with that throughout his entire career. He's only had one game in which he hasn't turned the football over. I think the New York Giants have to come out with a very similar game plan to what they came out with last week. They only threw the ball 19 times. Personally, I don't want to see Daniel Jones throw the ball more than 25 times in this game. I recognize that could be difficult. The Philadelphia Eagles have a very strong interior defensive line, and, well, their secondary is not that great outside of Darius Slay, who's phenomenal, but I do think the New York Giants may be able to hit some big plays on this team. But their defensive line is definitely strong. And the Giants' offensive line, which is much improved, will have to hold up. You know, I keep saying it every week. They look like they're getting better and better and better. And last week, they went up against their best test in terms of a defensive line. You're talking about 3 top-tier edge rushers. The New York Giants did a great job bottling them up. Well, they're going to have to do the same thing this week. The Eagles have a strong defensive line. They have a strong interior defensive line. And I could see the New York Giants struggling a bit to get a ground game going, which goes back to what I talked about in my video earlier this week. I think the Giants need to start to put more of an emphasis of designing some plays to utilize Daniel Jones's legs, whether that's the RPO, whether that's him taking off design runs, or just getting him out in the flat and using his legs to try to extend plays in the passing game. I think the New York Giants need to do a little bit more of that. I'm not saying go full Lamar Jackson, but I do think they need to try to utilize his legs a bit more than what they have. Now, Sterling Shepard may be back for this game. Haven't gotten word on that yet. As of now, from what I've read, he is still on the IR. The New York Giants have till 4 p.m. to take him off of it. And everything that I read is he will be coming off of it. Doesn't necessarily mean he'll be playing in this game. We may have to wait until the following week on Monday Night Football. But definitely, the New York Giants could use all the help they could get with that banged-up wide receiver core. I mean, you look at it right now with C.J. Board out. You've got Austin Mack right now is your number 2 wide receiver. If Sterling Shepard, or number 3 wide receiver, I should say, if Sterling Shepard is not playing this game behind Slayton and Golden Tate, I expect Slay to be matched up on Tate. And, you know, I say it every week. The Giants have to find a way to get Engram more involved in this offense, more involved in plays down the field. He's been used a lot like Jason Witten was in the Dallas Cowboys offense, and I think that's more of a role for a guy like Caden Smith. Ingram's a guy that could take the top off the defense or at least make big plays down the field. You have to get him out in open space. To the Giants' credit, they've tried some design run plays, but I think they got to get a bit more creative with Engram. I don't want you airing out the ball 30 to 35 times in this game, but when you do air it out, I do want to see you take shots down the field. Another thing that I expect the Eagles to try to do in this game is something very similar to what Washington did last week. Washington had a lot of check down passes to the running back. The Giants, without Tate Crowder, they're a little bit less athletic at that linebacking core. I think they're going to try to use Boston Scott in the passing game and use their tight end as well. They'll try to pick on our unathletic linebackers in coverage, and the New York Giants will have to find a way to scheme against that. Pass rush is going to be huge in this football game. The Philadelphia Eagles this year have surrendered the most sacks in football. They've surrendered 25 sacks this year. That is the most in the league. The Giants aren't a lot better. They've surrendered 17, but the Eagles are the worst, and that is something they're not used to. Generally, the Philadelphia Eagles have a very strong offensive line, and last year everybody pointed to the fact that Carson Wentz was able to overcome everything with a weak wide receiving core, but one thing he had was a very stout offensive line. He doesn't have that this year, and I think that is the main reason for his struggles, and the New York Giants need to find a way to pick on that. I think the Giants are going to send blitzes. We all know Wentz is prone to turning the football over. Everybody talks about Daniel Jones' fumbling problems. It's something Carson Wentz has had his entire career, and the Giants got to find a way to force some turnovers in this game. And if the Giants can force a turnover or two and they hold on to the football, there's no reason to think that the New York Giants can't win this game. I think the New York Giants are going to do a good job controlling the time of possession in this game because I can't see the Eagles establishing a ground game with Boston Scott and that banged-up offensive line. I really do believe the New York Giants will do a decent job bottling up that run, and then it's going to come down to limiting Carson Wentz from making big plays. Yeah, you're going to give up some threes. You can't give up a ton of sevens. The defense has to show out like they've shown out the last couple of weeks. They've put forth good effort. I expect them to continue to build off of that. The running game may be a little bit, we may struggle a little bit in between the tackles. We have to get creative. Maybe it's pitch plays to the outside. Maybe it's using Daniel Jones's legs. The third down conversion rate has gotten better and better and better every week from this offense. Last week, they were 7 for 11 in that category. And I'm going to tell you what, man, I'm pretty optimistic going into this game that the New York Giants could at least make this a ball game. A lot of people may think they're going to get blown out. It's at the Link. I don't think that. Now, I know that they can have some fans in there to limited capacity. You can fill up about 20% of the stadium, and maybe I'll be completely wrong. I think the New York Giants are going to put up a fight here. I think this game comes down to the final minutes, and in the end, I think the New York Giants ride that momentum into Philadelphia. They get to 2-5, and they win by a field goal. I got the Giants 23. I got the Eagles 20 as the New York Giants get to 2-5 before they get set to take on the Tampa Bay Bucks on Monday Night Football and go 2-1 in the NFC East. As always, guys, if you like what you watch, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.